match to get to play, turn around, and we are in a champ select to see how these teams can fare.
Yeah, I think it was actually in week 7 when NRG was able to 2-0 Envy. It was kind of like this one moment where you thought maybe NRG was going to be able to turn it around, but since then they've just ended up losing all their games. So they need to be able to kind of recapture whatever it was against Envy that was able to have success. GBM's got to wake up a little bit. That's one of the longest yawns I have seen from a human being.
Wow.
It's done now.
All right, he's good. He's good. I actually wonder if anyone ever watches like Champ Select like on YouTube with like sped up speed or just like a normal yawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man.
In case you want to watch Champ Select in slow-mo, actually, once that happened to us in Challenger last split or last year, we accidentally played Champ Select at half speed because it's, Champ Select's pre-recorded.
For Challenger in that year,
because it's played online, and so we had like a like 12-minute long Champ Select. And I just imagine like watching GBM yawn for 70 seconds.
Oh boy. Anyway, these bans are coming through. Alawi has been something that Quas has been able to draw as a ban since he's really the one that put in the time to master that champion. Other teams aren't super used to playing against it. I'm really interested to see how COD's pick and bans go with this. Obviously, he has been the analyst for them for quite a while, but when you see Zix on stage, he's really commanding as far as COD's champion select goes. So obviously they would have been still working back and forth for preparation despite Zix being ill.
Yeah.
Curious to see if they have any issues here, though.
Generally speaking, a couple teams have allowed me to sit in on their champ selects in LCS, and they typically come in knowing almost everything they're going to do already. They've already theory crafted all the pick bans. You very often with top tier teams have very little talk during champ select if things go according to plan, because they've planned for all the contingencies, and this contingency says first pick Malzahar. Seems everyone loves his champion now.
Exactly. Interesting to see the Hecarim ban as well. Could have been something that Xmithie would pick up, even though Darshan has a game on it. Definitely a champ that has been able to take over a few games from the jungle. Dardoch and Inori both with double-digit kill scores in individual games with it. But the Malzahar pick, I think, is just the best one for COG right now. Huhi has had tremendous performances on it, and it's a power pick right now.
And it's also very important that they banned Zilean as well. TSM sort of famously yesterday, actually, against Immortals, brought Zilean into Malzahar as the counter pick, saying, oh, I'll just Chrono Shift anyone that you Nether Grasp. That's not going to work out for you. Zilean can push as hard as Malzahar does, and so CLG not only first picked a great mage, but banned the counter leading into it, and now NRG have to take something else. Yeah,
exactly. And NRG does go with Karma, which is another one of those priority picks from the support position. Aphromoo could have obviously picked that, but he has a very wide support champion pool, and since there were no junglers banned, I don't really think you get a huge amount of value out of the Rek'Sai, so basically it comes down to COG trading the Malzahar for Karma.
Okay, and look at this. So, yeah, Gragas Ashe coming through, so not wanting to show any other of their lanes, hoping they can maybe get a counter pick in the top lane somewhere, and also waiting to see what the support actually is here for NRG. But Ashe, the big utility carry with Sivir gone, no huge surprise there, and Jhin, I think, is also likely for OQ.
Yeah, Twitch obviously being banned away for OQ. It's kind of curious how NRG has these two champions that have worked very well for them in Twitch and Alawi.
Right.
Really, all of their success seems to come when they're on one of those two champions. So they haven't been able to expand beyond that. It made CLG's bans fairly straightforward, and I completely agree with them.
It's actually interesting to see as well, because CLG, being respectful, doing the target bans, which meant they only had one sort of free available meta ban to put in, and it was, let's just pinch the mid lane matchup. Let's make sure Malzahar has no counter pick. I always enjoy when I see that. I think it's cool on both sides. Xerath for GBM. Oh, man. Blast from the past.
Yeah, GBM was the Xerath guy. We talked about how he had a long yawn. He had very long Xerath games as well back when he was on Jhin Air. They were 60-minute plus because you could just not push into the base against him.
Wow.
Obviously, though, with Drake's being different on this patch, with Baron buff being buffing up the minions to make it harder for Xerath to clear, you can't quite stall out games the way you used to be able to, but I'm still really interested to see the Xerath laning phase against the Malzahar.
Right, because legitimately, how many times has Huhi played this matchup? Rework Malzahar into Xerath? Probably literally zero. This might be Huhi's literally first time playing this matchup with his champion, and you've got to play it on the LCS stage.
And we're going to get a little bit derailed because I want to mention another thing about Xerath. The Malzahar nerfs that are in on this particular patch didn't actually matter that much for most matchups. Remember, his auto attack range is reduced, and his move speed was decreased by 5. The interesting thing about Xerath is his Q is tuned so precisely against move speed that a lot of times people like to rush boots so it becomes dodgeable. But here, there is potentially a champ select problem. I'm really curious to see.
I was told what it was.
Okay, what was?
Okay, so basically, Ezreal got locked in too soon. They meant to pick Jhin. So they informed the refs. Refs said, okay, we're going to remake champ select. So CLG AFK'd their pick ban phase. The Xerath seems to be intentional. The Ezreal's supposed to be Jhin. If those of you who watched Team Liquid Academy from a couple weeks ago, the thought being that Ezreal was actually locked, but that was the wrong champion, and they said, hey, this is not what we meant to do, my bad. Shame on us, but that's meant to be Jhin, and then we go in from there.
There's a clarification in champ select that differentiates misclicks from late decisions. Because if you lock in the wrong champion with plenty of time left on the timer and immediately inform the referees before the opponent team is locked in picks, you are allowed to then make the correct pick. What happened for Team Liquid Academy and Challenger is the timer went down to 0 and it erroneously locked in the wrong pick, which is then the fault of the team, not a misclick. It's an interesting distinction, but it makes sense to me because otherwise you could just like, oh yeah, we ran out of time, but we meant to do this. Give us more time, please. Whereas clearly here, NRG did have enough time to pick, and you could make the very clear argument that it was accidentally locked in. So we're going to just very quickly go back into champ select. They're going to simulate up to the point where the champion will be locked, and then CLG will then get another fresh amount of time to lock in essentially their fourth and fifth picks. Because up until that point, it should be exactly mirrored.
Okay, so that's going to be what's happening here. Malzahar, Karma Rek'Sai, Gragas Ashe, Xerath, Jhin should be the lineup here for this one, but we will still get that Xerath you were talking about. Malzahar getting attack range and movement speed nerfs, which does quite matter for a Xerath matchup.
In the Xerath matchup, Xerath can actually be a massive lane bully because the Q goes through minions, it has no damage fall off, and it's a very quick activation. So if GBM actually does get ahead in that lane against Malzahar, he could potentially crush. Malzahar also needs to close into a medium distance in order to get his spells off, and Xerath is very long range. So there's the chance that Huhi actually is in a pretty bad matchup here. I haven't seen it. Huhi probably hasn't played against it, but I think just based on the champion kits, that there's a chance Xerath could take over this lane.
Definitely agree, and you can see that NRG now have built themselves a pretty nice poke composition. They also get to counterpick for the top lane to make sure the 1-4 is solid for them, but Jhin, you press R from off the screen, life is good. Xerath does the literally exact same thing and presses R from off the screen, then clicks on you 3 or 4 times. And Karma can help make sure the team can disengage. Santorin has some early pressure on the Rek'Sai. NRG, I think, can really make this composition work. I like what it's looking like. The question is, can CLG break this apart? Thankfully for them, they do have engage tools with the Gragas and the Ashe to make sure they can get in on the poke team, but then it's still down to their actual the mechanics, the interaction with their opposing team of can we actually get in on this?
Yeah, and how much more initiation are they going to lock? And apparently it's a lot.
Yeah.
Because they can throw Shen in with the Gragas. They can also just use Aphromoo as a playmaker. And if you're thinking about how GBM and OQ are going to stand still to fire skills from long range, well, that can very easily be disrupted by Aphromoo's Bard. So I really like the Bard choice there. It's often a champion that's banned against Aphromoo, regardless of the team compositions, let alone when it becomes a counter to the champions on the other side.
And what's really interesting is I wonder how good Aphro's going to be good at landing Fog of War ultimates, because Jhin and Xerath both have displays basically that tell you the range of the ability. You can deduce their actual location via where Xerath's ring is, look at the, do some trigonometry as you need, look at the angle on the Jhin ulti.
Just throw in some graphing calculators.
Right, bring out your compass and go for it. But at very least via experience playing against these champions to some level, you should actually be able to reasonably accurately figure out exactly where they are and just toss the ult into Fog of War and cancel them out, potentially.
I can see that. Quas goes with Trundle. Stat stick in the top lane to go up against Darshan Shen. So this is definitely a team where Darshan is playing the conventional tank. Hopefully he's able to split or win lane. I was talking with Azael a little bit about CLG's struggles and about why we were thinking that CLG was kind of always really good despite their record, and that's because they had Aphromoo, who is a great playmaker in the bottom lane, and Darshan, who is a great playmaker in the top lane. And I think one of the biggest things when CLG was struggling earlier on in this split was the fact that Darshan hasn't been on his game, so he hasn't been the top lane playmaker, which then threw scrutiny actually onto the mid lane, since now it's like, well, where's the second playmaker going to be? Instead of just being like, yo, what got them here was Darshan being a playmaker. But clearly CLG is kind of undergoing a bit of a transition. Darshan now on the Shen, not your traditional CLG, and it's still going to be another one of those games where it's Huhi, Stixxay, damage dealers, and Aphromoo and even Xmithie as the playmakers, with Darshan just there to supplement.
Yeah, and so we'll see how good the supplementation is here from Logic Gaming. Coaches shake hands. I want to give a quick shout out to Goldman, who was like trying to cover his mouth with his notepad while talking so that no one could like read lips watching the VOD afterwards. I found that really interesting. So props for him for like the extra little mile he's going for. But now it's time to get into the first game of the series. Send your vote on Twitter. Get behind your favorite squad. Hashtag CLG win, hashtag NRG win to influence the tracker that we're going to monitor throughout the series to see which team has more fans. CLG near the top of the table, hoping to make that push for a third place seed. NRG holding on to that slim chance of making it out of the promotion tournament, just getting 7th and just sitting in regardless, not having to play for a spot at all.
Absolutely. I do want to touch on your lip reading move a little bit then. Like, that is a super common thing in American football where play callers would just always just hold the playbook up against their mouth. It's usually like a nervous habit, but there is the chance that someone could technically lip read at some point and steal some signals from you, so why not? Exactly.
Like, you have no loss in doing this. You might as well try in case it's actually one of the team's competitive advantages. Well, the players have now spread apart. Ooh, Aphro gets tagged for 8 gold. KiWiKiD, see, look at that. KiWiKiD outplayed him heavily.
Two of the LCS veterans right there, Aphro and KiWiKiD going against each other.
They both played in Spring Split 2013, I believe.
Absolutely.
KiWiKiD was a top laner. Oh, that's all the gold right there.
Aphro was in a little bit of trouble, though. He might have to...
Q should learn W. I think he already learned Q or something.
Yeah.
And here comes the re-engage. Actually, Zerath losing a lot of health. Stixxay gonna put the slows down. Why is Huhi still attacking? He can kill Aphro! Ooh, that heal came in to save his life, but he's running out of health. Body slam's not gonna land. Can't get the damage across, and that's the kill picked up. First blood for Darshan. And a misplayed level 1 by NRG.
Absolutely, and that's one of those things that require a lot of trust in your team because it's not a level 1 that you practice like, okay, we're going to trade a little bit of damage, I'm going to get caught in the river, but the other team's not going to have 5 people, so we're going to collapse down on them, because that's essentially what CLG had to pull off there. They recognized that NRG was doing a defensive line. Aphromoo was caught in what could have been a bad situation, but instead of burning his flash very early for safety, he thought, he kind of ad-libbed and said, hey, we can actually turn this around if they overcommit. Let's watch this again, because look at the positioning. Like, there's a defensive line going on all over the place, and Aphromoo is actually alone. But they have pole position from the mid lane. They can send 3 people across. So as long as KiWiKiD and OQ move up a little bit, they can pinch, and that's exactly what they do right here. OQ spends time doing too much damage. He could have ran up with KiWiKiD and been completely safe, but he was getting a little bit greedy for damage. Once he uses both Summoner spells, he's completely trapped.
Yeah.
And first blood over to Darshan. It's a great start for CLG, although he does have to back at the very start of the lane.
He does. Yeah, Darshan running away from the lane swap. We are in one of those. Also, OQ made a pretty cardinal sin that I feel like most top players wouldn't do, which is you learn your first ability before people ever attack you. He had the dancing grenade.
Oh, Quas is under the turret.
They're going to dive him. Sun's going to land. Quas maybe shouldn't even be here. Flashed away. Does go down. No kill back on Aphromoo. Santorin, I don't think can do enough here. So just a silly defense that NRG did not do properly, and now they're down 2 kills right away.
This is actually really interesting because in the last few weeks of LCS, NRG has been trying to basically punish teams for taking shortcuts and lane swaps by defending the turret more and more. CLG wasn't having any of it. They execute a very easy 3-man to 1 dive because Santorin wasn't quite in position, even though they were on low levels, and it's going to continue, actually.
Wow, Quas tried to punish the fact that Stixxay pulled aggro and ends up losing the trade because CLG reacted perfectly. And now, what if a second dive comes through? Darshan's in a bit of a risk. He doesn't have flash.
But at the very least, he's pushing them off the turret.
Yeah, he does deny XP by doing this. NRG couldn't fight back for fear of Ashen Bard killing them. So, wow, CLG getting quite a lot out of this. Yes, NRG absorbs some XP, but this turret's not going to die. CLG are going to get theirs, and life is difficult for NRG.
Yeah, there's...
Gonna lose their red buff, too.
There's a lot of things that did not go well for NRG right there, but I also do credit CLG for adapting to the situations. Like, while we were replaying the first blood, actually, Darshan had to burn his flash in top lane because he was trying to leech a little bit of experience. But at the end of the day, he backed away because he respected Santorin's potential of being there.
Right.
Whereas here, when Quas was on the turret, he was thinking, okay, it's like a level 1 Bard, like a level 2 Ashe, and maybe a level 1 or 2 Shen. He thought as Trundle he'd be able to withstand that dive. And also, it's always really hard to point out which wave a team dives on, because you're trying to punish all of these patterns from teams. CLG dove on a very early wave right there, and Quas didn't expect it.
Well, slow on to Huhi. Here comes the gank from 3 members. Huhi's learned all summoner spells. He's running out of HP, but here comes the counter gank. Kill still comes through. Nice job by GBM and the rest of his teammates to get one back. Finally something on the board for NRG.
Yeah, and all summoners burned in that gank as well. Huhi burned both, and Xmithie even burned the flash. So that's a really punishing gank to go down that way, and GBM was able to maintain all of his summoner spells in that engagement. So that is the type of thing that NRG need to go their way, since the previous kills had been very in the favor of CLG.
I think there's a good chance KiWiKiD resumes and comes back to the gank as well. Huhi missing all his summoners, but GBM and KiWiKiD have all of theirs, and they're slow into the setup.
Huhi was just trying to make sure the wave was shoved in, stuck around to auto attack at last minion to secure last hit, and that pushed him just a little bit too far in. Also noting how the ward coverage was actually in the favor of NRG there, since CLG had back after their bottom lane dive, so it was a window of time where the map was dark, and it was just the right time for NRG to gank. Great roam by KiWiKiD, actually.
Absolutely, yeah, on the back half of sort of recalling their bot lane back down to the bot lane, and yeah, they lined up quite well on this one. Shout out to them for making sure they landed the auto attacks as well. They actually used all their cooldowns, and Huhi had 100 HP left, and a couple autos from KiWiKiD and GBM sealed the deal. 1,500 of the gold deficit, not great for NRG, but maybe they can turn something around later on in this game. Push pressure still coming in, and right now Huhi, despite actually being ganked, is doing well on this lane.
Yeah, but really pay attention to the fact that he finished an item instead of an early upgrade of boots. He got caught by the last 2 Qs from GBM and actually has to back right away. Expect him to buy boots and then come back to lane, because if you don't have boots, as I was talking about, the Q, if aimed properly, can actually be undodgeable from Xerath at early ranks. So Huhi now has boots, and now at least he has a chance to dodge the Xerath Q.
Yeah, I remember actually when we were coding Cassiopeia bot, actually, her Q was undodgeable because just the delay on that ability versus the AoE, and Xerath in a similar situation, if you do it right. The fun joy of being humans is you still have to
aim.
Yeah, you have to aim and you have to account for reflexes, that if he jukes within a quarter second, you didn't react to seeing that because it's just not possible for you. And sometimes you can mind game your opponents, but either way, yes. Life is hard for Huhi. He's got to try to find ways to dodge this. It's not going to be easy. GBM, a veteran on this Xerath. Xmithie has hit level 6 already. He's roaming to the top side of the map, looking to maybe pressure Quas, who had counterpicked this matchup, but he's up against Darshan, who's got a kill and an assist. And
he's not level 6 yet, so he can't ult.
And that's a lot of damage, knocks him away from the turret, but Darshan's running out of health, has a flash away from the turret that would kill him. Here comes Santorin to try to save him from Xmithie, and that's going to be the case. Nice damage out of the Rex side. They will not kill off Quas. They deny some of the farm, though. Yeah,
timing of that flash was critical for Quas. He was able to avoid the damage from Xmithie's ultimate, and I think that could have been fatal. So Quas able to escape that gank, and then Santorin comes in to make sure Xmithie can't chase. But that doesn't get him completely out of the woods.
Yeah, plenty of regen spent now by CLG to hope to redo the gank. Santorin says, don't you dare. It lets Quas get away, and now we see if Quas will use teleport or just walk to get back in. Darshan's TP's back up, and of course he's Shen, so he's going to have that window. GBM has to ghost to get away from Xmithie. Gregor's ulti was down, but you still have to respect the body slam.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure it would have turned into anything. Huhi, I don't think was in range for his own ulti.
Yeah, that was one of those things where GBM was being a little bit overly cautious, which you can't really fault him for, but I do believe it was an unnecessary ghost, based on the positioning of Huhi. You do have to respect greatly a Malzahar in lane, though, just
definitely.
The ultimate is such an easy follow-up.
Right. So an understandable choice by GBM. KiWiKiD making a nice play and leashing for his mid laner. Props to KiWiKiD being a wonderful teammate, as Santorin was busy holding up Quas in the top lane, so resources sent elsewhere. AD carries have ultimates in its back. Here's Jin in the mid lane. Huhi gets the passive turned off, but runs away fast enough, burning his ghost to get away.
Yeah, a little peculiar how OQ decided to just run into the mid lane to throw his ultimate off. He's going to be running into the Malzahar passive, so even if he lands the first shot, he's not going to apply a slow for crowd control.
At least he made him burn a ghost, and I think, you know, it's a moderately short cooldown. His outer turret's already dead, so, like, at least the opportunity cost was low for that play. Sure. But yes, the expected payoff very, very low, and unsurprisingly, nothing super important happens, and he's back down to the bottom lane to clear the wave. And it's interesting, it's this is a similar matchup to what we had in TSM versus Immortals yesterday, and talking with Cop and Bunny Fufu, they're saying, basically, Jin has really terrible minion wave pushing. He's really slow at it. And so CLG, because of this, should always have priority on shoving the bot lane in, and basically always have priority on bot side of the map. Unsurprisingly, bot's shoved in, he's a free trade.
Yeah, and something we actually didn't touch on earlier on in this game is when NRG was trying to defend the bottom lane turret with Quas and Santorin, that also meant they weren't fast pushing the other side. So when the defense fails, they don't actually have the people on the other side of the map to get the turret. So it's been a very poor early game in general for NRG, losing the Drake now on top of it. But they do want Darshan. They could think about sending a 3-man dive with KiWiKiD and Santorin. It is difficult to kill a Shen this early, but they do have a numbers advantage, a pretty big one with OQ coming up as well.
All right, here comes the attempted dive. Curtain called, roughly up right now, so Darshan might be in danger. He sniffs it out, he's running away. Here comes the knockup for Santorin into the root for KiWiKiD as well. Lots of tools. And Curtain Call is going to land one bullet, and he's out of range for the rest. Darshan gets to the shield, gets exhausted, goes into the dodge zone, and he's going to get taken out. Well played. NRG getting up another kill, tying that score. And now they play turret trades to the opposite sides of the map.
Yeah, full 4-man gank though, so that means the inner turret is going to go very easily over to CLG. I think if NRG gets the gold from the outer turret, they can still technically win this trade since it's a kill and a turret. But from a map pressure perspective, I think it's a loss because now a bunch of wards are being placed in their jungle and CLG is able to shove all the way up into the inhibitor.
I do want to give some props to NRG though, because the gold deficit is only 500 despite being down a turret worth 800 gold. So I gotta say there's certainly a lot of
hope.
Yeah, dedication still here. NRG still trying to make sure they can hold on. Right now they're certainly okay. This lead is far from insurmountable.
I agree. Being able to get those 2 kills is incredibly important. Darshan hasn't been able to pull ahead of Quas, and as a Shen, that's not really something that will happen going into a Trundle. So Darshan, all of his farm will generally be only if Quas isn't in that lane. The mid lane and the bottom lane matchups are going even, if not favorable, for NRG. So despite what I would call some questionable choices in the early game, their play in the mid lane, the roams of KiWiKiD, have all been quite effective, and that's what pulled them back into this game.
Yeah, props to KiWiKiD for playing quite well in this one. Huhi sniped up again. Nice skill shot accuracy by OQ. And now we get to see the next part of this game is it's NRG continue to play aggressively. Quas pulls turret dagger, but he's got bot lane pushed in with that Tiamat. He's going to be pretty fast at it. NRG definitely going to have priority on whichever lane Quas goes to if he's in a 1v1 or a 1v0.
Yeah, and this is actually Darshan trying to defend a turret again where he doesn't have the numbers to back himself up. CLG are all in the mid lane, maybe running down, but they could be a little bit late to this.
They're looking to start a fight, though. It looks like the rest of the team roaming around. Malzahar is far, though. Xerath could join first. NRG able to walk away cleanly enough. No real threat on them. And yeah, Santorin said, hey, you've got to be more proactive to play League of Legends well to win this game. And NRG's actually been more proactive in the sort of last 6 minutes.
For sure. It's a game of cat and mouse as well, trying to catch each other in different positions. They arrow KiWiKiD.
Maybe an unnecessary flash. Looks like no one else was in range, but was afraid that if the arrow lands, it's got to be nearby. Turns out that wasn't the case, but now Huhi has flashed to the other side of the map. Quas gets still down in time to be very, very tanky. The Malefic Visions are on. Xerath wants to help, but he's actually out of range for most of this. He goes to Sniper Aphromoo, can't quite get it, and now the chase is on as Darshan's running out of health. A quick hot Coco comes in. There's the taunt. There's the kill picked up. Aphro getting his first of the game. A little more poke coming out of OQ. GBM is here. Lands another Q across. KiWiKiD putting in a slow, and looks like CLG still getting whittled down by the Xerath. The Arcana Pulse getting rid of some of the minions, and just going to be the 1-for-0 advantage Counter Logic Gaming, but out of health, we'll have to recall.
Yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward gank there by CLG, and they kept their distance and were very careful not to overcommit into the Xerath and the Jhin. It is very hard if you're not already close to the Xerath and Jhin to follow up on anything, but a pretty non-committal gank. Like, if you think about summoner spells used by CLG, super low. They pretty much just used the Malzahar ultimate, and they're able to come away with the kill.
Yep. Nicely done by them, and as they wait for the cooldowns to come back up, you can see CLG continue to go for that play. They actually didn't use any flashes in that fight, so they've got them all up for the next time.
Yeah, and I do feel like Huhi could have prepped this ultimate a little bit better, but if you're looking at what happened over on this side, it's kind of what we talked about, the double ultimate from GBM and Jhin. Aphromoo ulted one of them, just journeyed away, and that is one of the things that delayed NRG from supporting the rest of his dive. So thank you, the observers, for pointing that out to us, since there was a collapse from both teams heading down there, and looks like Aphromoo outplayed it.
And well done by him to get away without burning too much for himself. And now we get to see CLG running around with just this 700 gold lead. Again, this is less than you get from having a turret and a kill. So NRG winning in the farm game. You can see GBM completely holding up in the mid lane and what's becoming a pretty sizable lead for Quas over Darshan. A nice root's going to come in. He's got a flash to get into the magical journey, just trying to get away from all the concentric circles. And the final snipe just doesn't do enough damage to Darshan, to Aphromoo, as there's just not that many items yet on OQ. Scuttle Crab goes to Huhi.
They're
looking
pick.
to pick off KiWiKiD.
It would be a 3v2 dive with potential counter gank, so...
Root is in, another root arrow's gonna land. There's this, not gonna be the stun, but it's gonna be enough barrels. And just gets barreled over now. The flash knock comes in. Shentel to keep Stixxay alive. He will do so. Bartleby to disengage the enemy marksman. And it's a nice aim once again. Now the taunt coming through to delay Quas. Killer in. Stixxay's really low. Nice flash. Good chase. OQ setting it up beautifully.
Yeah, Stixxay got a little bit too far forward. The pre-setup to that fight was really good from CLG, but the continuation...
It might get worse for CLG. Ulti on the Quas right now, but Huhi's got a flash away from everybody else. A nice kill picked up on the Quas. They're going to maybe trade top laners. Darshan burning down. Deathfire touch. Not doing enough damage. And now it's CLG forced to run for the hills. No further snipes available yet for NRG. So that will be CLG picking up another positive kill for themselves.
Yeah, it makes the overall engagement a 2-for-1. One thing that is a little bit disheartening for CLG is that so many of the kills are going over to Xmithie and even the one onto Aphromoo.
Right.
They would definitely like those kills to be distributed more on mid, top, and AD. But there's still positive plays overall. Watching this, you know, they know that KiWiKiD is level 6 with a fairly squishy support. So all they have to do is land an arrow into a Bard stun, into an ultimate, and they burst him down pretty quickly. Getting the exhaust is a nice bonus. Then the continuation is actually pretty good from CLG at the start because they do the Shen ultimate, and here they actually get a little greedy and think, hey, we can turn this around if you really want to complete this teleport. But as Darshan taunts away, Stixxay gets in front, gets cut off by the Trundle Pillar, gets rooted by OQ, which leads to the flash from Quas, and that's just a whole lot of pain all at once that I don't think he was expecting, but could have been ultimately avoided. The fight continues though. Huhi pops his ultimate while he has his passive up, which stops Santorin from being able to stop him. They burst him and then quickly run away. So nice in and out team fighting from CLG overall, and they get the 2-for-1.
Yeah, well played by them. And you can see 1,600 their gold lead. They're pressuring the top side of the map right now. And in fact, Darshan is a lone split push in the bot lane. So now CLG playing much better with the minion waves. They have threat here, but NRG, of course, they have resources. Darshan has teleport. Here comes the Jin ulti, but the magical journey is there. Aphro is gonna not get rooted in time. Takes the slow path over, but here comes the assassination. Good pickup. Everyone is there, and look at the barrage. Stixxay having a flash away from this one. Poked out, but he's gonna live. But look at the collapse, the range that NRG has.
Seriously, and with no turret behind CLG, the magical journey will only take you so far. Props to NRG for that engage, but they will give up a Drake for it. So at the end of it, not that negative of a trade, despite how good the fight looked for NRG.
Yeah, the top turret already gone anyway, so you're right, not a lot they can capitalize on with those kills. 1,000, the difference, but 2 Drakes definitely matter. CLG having the combat stats and the turret taking stats as well. Next one up going to be Ocean, so if they play these long poke games, that'll be actually not too bad of a thing for them. We'll see as that pushes forward, but certainly a tense game and closer than I think many were going to expect coming into the series.
Especially with how it started. First blood going over to Darshan.
2-0 in 3
dying
minutes.
Under his turret right away, giving a 1-for-0 turret trade. Like, those are things that you're thinking. CLG being only 2 losses in the second half of the season, and NRG only 4 wins on the entire split. You'd think that that kind of start would just lead to 25-minute CLG victory, but definitely hasn't been the case. I think GBM Xerath is showing up.
And doing good work. You see Huhi drop to half HP, and the thing is playing Xerath and a Malzahar is a game of skill shot accuracy. You must land the first pulse passive, then you have to land the rest during the 20-second lockup before it resumes.
True. And
so GBM hits him, waits a second, hits him twice more, then Huhi's at half. And he's doing that pretty reliably. GBM's been getting quite a lot of priority in that lane.
Definitely. Although CLG, once again, ahead on the turret push. Just way ahead on the turret push.
Yeah, this turret's probably going to go down without much answer. Okay, here comes the rest of NRG. 4 are in range. Quas does not have teleport. This would not be a good team fight except for that catch. Doesn't lead the target right, and there is the Bard ultimate. Tempered Fate tempers NRG's expectations, and out they go. Stixxay staying alive without burning any summoners. Quas will get the turret, so Temple or not, NRG is still answering reasonably well in some of these cases.
Yeah, there'll be a lot more standing gold for CLG in this game, though, as they have 2 turrets still up, so the map control is in favor. But that does mean if NRG win a fight and take a few turrets, they can slingshot that gold back a little bit. GBM's going to need to get a blue buff if he wants to keep spamming like this. One interesting thing is a lot of Xerath's lane dominance does come from his ability to auto-attack to get some of his mana resetting, but you don't want to walk into the range of Malzahar to do that. So this game he's playing where he's poking out and shoving lane very quickly is pretty mana hungry right now.
Yep. Asmorel Anamikon, which is only going to give him that extra mana restore when he gets a killer assist right now, and Luden's Echo might be next up, which isn't going to help that case either. And look at this, the blue buffs too. You mentioned the importance of it, and CLG are on this to make sure it happens. The best teams never let you get any buffs, and CLG trying to make sure that happens, so good by them. 2,000 gold lead. Darshan has control over this bot side of the map. Stixxay sent to hold up on the left. You see Santorin looking for more plays. 1, 1, and 3.
Well, with Stixxay over on the top side of the map, you'd think NRG would try and make a move for some control in the mid lane, especially with the Rylai's Crystal Scepter done on GBM.
Yeah, that's the one.
Could be a point of contention.
Sets up his ultimate. If he lands one piece, it's much, much harder to dodge the rest. So Luden's would have been a better burst item, but Rylai's is much better for consistency. If you land it slow, you're going to get more.
And they want to be able to chase down, too. So it's like a Xerath ultimate into a Jhin shot, into another shot from Xerath, and they can kind of chain them together. I think that's the idea of this Xerath Jhin poke.
Definitely.
Yes, definitely.
And it could look very good. One's going to turn into the other. Even Trundle, actually. I think back to the old poke comp days when Nidalee mid was super popular and whatnot. Yep. Trundle was the really common jungle or top lane pickup to set up the pillar to make the skill shot accuracy easier. Pillar has a very long range. It's a guaranteed slow. It even blocks your pathing. And that's been the combo for, I think, literally 5 years in League of Legends. And here's Trundle once again in a nice poke team, and unfortunate for CLG, well, they gave Trundle a good matchup with their trend pickup. And now, here comes the damage for the Xmithie. 1 miss, 2 hits.
Gotta land the first one. Oh, he slowed. Here we go.
Yeah, Aphro gets chunked down to half, but sadly, OQ had no more bullets left. If he had maybe held on to them, the setup could have been different. And that's not gonna be the case here. CLG withstand 2 full channel ultimates and still feel okay to fight.
Yeah, they at least feel okay to stay in the mid lane. Be tricky to engage onto them with no great sustain on the team.
Well, Ocean Drake in a minute and a half can help them. A quick battle for dominance in the bot jungle, but careful because KiWiKiD is here. Santorin buffed up. Xmithie down below 1,000 health. A pillar to even help that. And Xmithie, wow, they have to burn Stand United. He might still go down. That CLG wanted to engage. They've got the stun on a Santorin. Explosive cast turns the backline right back in. Trying to go for Xmithie. Can't quite kill him off. Santorin gets downed. Great by Aphromoo. Now the re-engage on towards Quas. Tempered Fate stops through the backline, but it means the arrow doesn't land. But maybe there's going to be more for the setup. 2 for 0 so far for CLG. Looking for KiWiKiD slowed down. Pinched, and he's going to be taken out by the Voidlings. Just maybe. No! Not quite going to get him out. KiWiKiD survives, but a 2 for 0 to CLG. Mid lane wave alive enough to get some turret damage as well.
And still a good turn by CLG, even if the beautiful ultimate from Aphromoo was a little bit over the top because of Stixxay's Ash Arrow coming through. The 2 for 0 allowed them to take the mid lane turret as well, and I think take pretty decent control of this game now.
Really nicely played. KiWiKiD Gaming up 4,500. We will be seeing that fight again, I'm sure of it, as Xmithie takes his red buff away.
Yeah, lots of really close interactions. So Xmithie is thinking about turning this the entire time because they know the Jhin and the Xerath ultimates are down and those guys are stuck in mid lane. So really this aggression from Quas and Santorin can be turned around. Huhi flanks in with his passive up. So even though KiWiKiD tries to break it, he gets a great ultimate off, hitting both Quas and Santorin. Then the ultimate from Xmithie makes it even harder to retreat. Ignite ticks down Santorin. Quas gets killed with a bunch of damage. Then Temper Fate, but that means the Ash Arrow goes right through them. If he could have saved that until after the flashes, he probably could have gone up and hit either KiWiKiD or GBM with that, but that's asking a whole lot. The Bard ultimate hitting is still pretty awesome for them. It doesn't lead to any kills, but it does burn 2 flashes.
Exactly, the setup was there. Shen or Bard could have gotten the kill afterwards, so NRG had to run away. The Ocean Drake is now alive. The NRG ultis are back up for the most part, but so are 3 of KiWiKiD Gaming. So no Shen ulti, no Bard ulti, but NRG have 5, so that's a potential cooldown advantage. 700 teleports up on both sides, so that's not a problem. They can both join the fight. However, CLG are the ones holding most of the map control around this Ocean Drake. Yes, there's a Scuttle Crab taken by Santorin, but it might not matter. CLG going to burn this one down quickly enough. The attempted steal, not going to happen. Great pickup right there by CLG. And that is 3 Drakes picked up. It's good for KiWiKiD Gaming.
Yeah. I wonder if they go for something here. It's a little bit aggressive.
Santorin, 3-man, knock up the engager. Here come the ulti pop. Huhi gonna run out of health pretty fast. A lot of snipes coming through. They do pick him off. A 1-for-1 jungler for mid laner. Better for NRG. Stixxay has to dodge away from the skill shots as well. GBM gonna land a slow. Has to make him flash away from the stun, and the snipe's gonna come through and stun out Aphromoo. But the arrow's there for GBM.
Whoa,
the taunts in as well. They've got so much crowd control. They've got him picked off, and now it's Quas stuck in the front line. They're trying to burn down Xmithie. The crit's gonna be there. OQ reloads, goes in. The taunt's not quite gonna land for Darshan, and he's actually gonna tank what would have killed Aphromoo with the deadly flourish. Shield is in for KiWiKiD. They're going to let OQ kite away. A great route. KiWiKiD playing this fight well, but he's now out of mana. Darshan looking for the play, but a two-man slow. KiWiKiD playing this perfectly to keep OQ alive, but he's out of places to go, and they will finally get the pick up with a nice magical journey to put Stixxay in range. Blue Buff going to go over to CLG, and another team fight win for the blue team.
Yes, such interesting fights where NRG is trying to win the fight with poke, but they're not necessarily able to stop CLG from getting the engages that they want, which is the Achilles heel of poke compositions if you can't keep the other team at a distance. And the beginning of this actually looks great for NRG. CLG decides to go a little bit aggressive. The pillar stops a little bit of Aphromoo, and Santorin goes in because, you know, everyone's here. A little bit of a hard engage for poke comp, but that's because they can get a kill on Huhi early, and they actually stop the Shen from arriving via ultimate. But then Darshan teleports, and here's what NRG need to be able to run away. The Tempered Fate stops GBM, they chain it with 2 stuns, then a taunt, so GBM is just completely dead. And because all the ultimates from NRG are used in the initiation, they can't really stick around in this fight. Like, that should have been just a full-on run away. OQ decided to stick around a little bit. Darshan gets close to him. Aphromoo knows all of the limits on Bard, so he can then get a nice magical journey to go in, and now we're actually going to see a fight of Baron.
All right, here comes the Baron race. Santorin does not have flash. He'd have to use his tunnel to get in there. Gets stunned up. Huhi ults, and they can burn it down. They're trying to, and yes, that is a counter logic gaming Baron pickup. Nice by them. Pillar going to try to block them off, but it's not going to mean much. Quas now in the front line. Root's going to find Xmithie. Here come the snipes, but careful. There's an Ash Arrow and a potential kill in a GBM. Gets a shield, but he's getting a lot of damage back. Quas running out of health. The Voidling's in the chase.
Beautiful.
And a great Tempered Fate's going to be 2 more kills for CLG. Maybe they can get a third. They're looking with the magical journey to find one more. Santorin over the wall. OQ gets out with the Yomu's Ghost Blade. Darshan wants this taunt. He makes the flash happen into the body slam, into the kill, into the pickup for Stixxay. Nicely done. 13-5. 8,000 gold up with a Baron buff.
CLG is just looking like they have so much control and discipline, and you can tell their communication is so clean. What could have been a risky Baron becomes a safe Baron because the Malzahar and the Gragas use all their skills to make the steal an impossibility. They get the Baron, and then they're very disciplined about the way they go for the fights. NRG has no way of dealing with Aphromoo's perfect play on Bard right now. The Tempered Fates are coming at just the right time, and maybe they end the game.
I think they're going to get at least a Nexus turret. I don't know if they can get more because the respawns are in just a few seconds. They're going to stay for the second turret here, but CLG don't have a ton of health right now. They're all at half.
Yep,
They've got to give some respect. Here comes the Xerath ulti. Looks for Stixxay. Can't quite get it. They've engaged in a GBM with another Nethergrass. They've taken him out. Plus a turret as well. It's now OQ back up. They're looking for the kill in Darshan. Crits him down to 5 HP, but can't pick it up. And now the damage out of the Nexus. That should be the game. Going over to counter Logic Gaming. 1-0 in 28 minutes.
Jeez. Funny how during the cast we joked that, you know, with a start like CLG had, you were kind of expecting like a 25-minute win. But NRG's really fought back in this one to a